Newsflash! The great Todd Whitaker has accepted the Rockstar's invitation to be a guest on the show. And today is the 10th episode of the Rockstar Principal Podcast, where the Rockstars have two passionate segments to celebrate the 10th episode. First, they interview part 1 of 3 with the 2013 Nationally Distinguished Principal, Dr. Dina Wert. And segment 2 is number 7 of Todd Whitaker's What Great Principals Do Differently. And it's all about teacher hiring and retention. And Nick and Jon go crazy with this one. Don't miss a second of this awesome podcast.
Welcome to the Rockstar Principals Podcast, coming straight to you from Rock and Roll, USA, covering the latest and greatest in educational leadership trends, news, and awesomeness for principals all over the world. Now, here are your hosts, the boss, John Ross, and the Doctor of Proctors, Nick Indeglio.
Rockstars, brace yourself for part 1 of the exciting interview with Dr. Dina Wert, the 2013 Pennsylvania Nationally Distinguished Principal. This is part 1 of a 3-part interview conducted with Dr. Wert. You'll hear it over the course of the next 3 episodes. Welcome to West Bradford Elementary School.
Beautiful West Bradford
Thank
Elementary
you.
School,
Indeed
I would
it
have
is.
to say. We are here with Dr. Dina Wert, the principal of West Bradford, who also happens to be the 2014 Pennsylvania National Distinguished Principal.
Thank
2014, correct?
2013.
Oh, is it 13? I
Yep,
thought it
yep.
was
I'm
for
living
next
out
year.
the dream this year.
So
yes,
it's for
yeah.
the year. Okay,
It's
my
for the year.
apologies.
Not
it's
a
for the
problem.
current year.
Yeah.
You'd think I would know. So, yeah, we'll touch on that, I think, at some point. But Dr. Wert works in Downingtown with us, although we are in no way affiliating this podcast with Downingtown Area School
Not
District.
in the least.
None
Not at all.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
No.
Not
The
associated.
opinions
This is
expressed here are
our
strictly
own.
Just our own.
This is on our
Yeah.
own time. If
Mhm.
anyone from Downingtown happens to be listening, we are well after the school
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
just to cover ourselves. But we thought it would be great with Dr. Nick and I being middle-level guys and having spent our entire careers on the secondary level to get an elementary perspective
Oh, you need it.
to our conversation.
Great.
We do. So we had a few questions that we gave to Dr. Wert ahead of time, but I think we're going to kind of just see where the conversation leads us.
The professionals of podcasting and the real world, they like to prepare things in advance and then really script things out well. It's not how John and I roll. It's not how we do things.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
We don't have any rules, actually. There's no rules. when it
Rebels
comes
and
to us.
Mavericks.
But
And
to,
I
but
learned
to
so
be
much
fair, why don't we start with the first question that we did show Dr. Wert, and then we can riff off that.
Okay.
John, why don't you ask it really seriously? See what you can do.
Dr. Wert,
from him.
do you know who Ultraman is?
That wasn't first. But I do know who Ultraman is. I grew up with Ultraman. I didn't understand Ultraman. I really didn't get the whole gist, and he was kind of eerie and freaky. And the whole, Japanese thing, it was kind of foreign to me growing up. But yeah, I did know Ultraman.
What do you remember about him?
He was big and silver, and I to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
He's a good
Okay.
guy.
He was a good
He was
guy.
a good guy, yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, though, you've remembered the only key points that remain consistent throughout the whole series.
Okay, all right. Well, similar to Marine Boy and,
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Marine Boy.
Wow.
Very good one.
Racist.
Yes, we
racer.
if you've listened to previous podcasts, are for some reason the developing like a man crush, I guess, on Ultraman, if that's possible. But we've just become a little too preoccupied to the point where we'll watch old episodes of Ultraman while we're recording the podcast.
Oh,
Nick got a DVD.
inspiring.
And it gives us talking points once in a while and make connections to leadership and how Ultraman. No, really, it's just
That's a
completely off
stretch,
task
yeah.
and something just.
The one thing it
totally
has done
fun.
for us, though, Dr. Wert,
Yeah.
is that when you look at our statistics for the podcast, the country that has the most listens to our podcast next to the United States is Japan.
Yeah, so
Oh,
shout out
wow.
to all of our friends out in Japan, all of our listeners out there.
Yeah,
in Japan.
really. Let's hear it for Ultraman.
Gorigamado.
Yeah, let's hear
Okay.
it.
Knock on the door.
What'd he
Let's see
say?
who's here.
What'd he say?
That child's home. I just want to let you know. He's
Okay.
fine. Grandfather
Okay,
picked him
great.
up.
Thanks.
That's what we do.
Thank
That's what we do here.
A day in the
Thank you
life.
very much.
A day in
There's
the life.
example number one of
Children
the
are safe.
difference between middle school, secondary level, and elementary school. Middle school kid doesn't get a ride. All right, bud, sit there, wait. Somebody will come and get you. Elementary school, got to monitor the kid. You got to keep an eye on him.
It's one of the many differences.
Let the principal know when that kid gets a ride.
It's important.
Yeah, I'm taking notes. I'm definitely taking notes.
Yeah, it's important.
That's why Dr. Wert's the NDP, folks. Come on.
Well, I'm sure there's other reasons other than that.
All right, so let's
talk about the job. Yeah, the job of the principalship. Can you give us like the 10-second tour of the life of Dr. Dina Wert, the career of Dr. Dina Wert in the principalship? Why you got into the job?
Wow.
I know that's not on our list, but I think that'd be a good starting point.
That's okay. I can talk about that. When you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, they never say a principal. Like, it's just not one of those things that people say, oh, I want to be a principal. They want to be a nurse, they want to be a teacher, they want to be whatever, not a principal. And I didn't want to be a principal either. I want to be a teacher. And when I became a teacher, it was everything and more I thought it would be. But I thought once I got into education, I really wanted to see it from as many perspectives as I could, and became a school counselor. And did that for about 12 years after teaching elementary school, and still able to be with the kids and feel like I was making a difference with families. And in the meantime, I got my principal cert and sort of put it in my back pocket. And when the time was right, I got to be a principal in the Wilson School District. And I had principal of 3 schools at once, all at the same time. I know. And that was an adventure, and then a new school opened up, and I was invited to open that school, and I did that, and that was quite an adventure too, staffing from the custodians to the teachers to that was a great experience, and building a new community and new culture. And then after 20 years in the same district, I thought, you know what, I need a change. I really need to grow in a different direction, and I came to Downingtown. And here I am, and this is my 3rd year here. And it's been, again, everything and more, and I'm feeling challenged and learning and growing and working with a great staff and a great crew of administrators.
The question I would ask, hearing how confident you are in talking about after 20 years deciding that you were ready for a change, that's a giant step, and that's a step that most people, I think, would fear, and to a large degree they probably do. So someone as successful as you who did as much in the district you were in, how do you get to the point? How do you build that level of confidence for the aspiring principals and the newer principals to where you can have the courage to say, you know what, I want to do something different?
Well, I can't say it was a level of confidence as much as I think, I like to feel challenged in what I do. I was always looking for a change. When I was teaching, in my teaching days, I always asked to switch grade levels. When I became a counselor, I was in 6 different schools. When I became a principal, I moved around, and I just felt like I needed to grow as an educator and as a person. And looking at where I was in my career, I thought this is the time to do it before it's too late and I'm ready to retire and won't want to move. And I felt like family-wise, I was in a position. My kids are a little bit older, and I could drive a little bit further. And that was a huge challenge because I came to this building at West Bradford, and the former principal was here for many years, over 20 years, as the principal, and well-loved. And I thought, what a challenge to, try to change a culture in a different direction. And not that it wasn't in a good direction, but and he left the building in awesome shape, and lucky to be here and, trying out some of my ideas. And it's been a good place to be. So
having done something similar, at what point do you begin to feel as though the building's more Dr. Wert than it is her predecessor? Because I just went through a similar thing a couple of years ago too, and I know that's something, again, one of the things that we're interested in is just the retention of principals and how long they choose to stay in certain places. And I'm sure that's one of the things that people have in mind when they're making a switch. Yeah.
Well, I was up for the culture change, but it having come from a place where I opened the building and I handpicked my staff, so I knew they all wanted to be there, and to come to a place where, who's this new person? She's not even she's from Berks County, and where they end their sentences with prepositions, and what's going on up there?
We all live in Berks.
We all live in Berks County.
So we can say that.
You get it. And so who is this person? And so that was part of my challenge, and I really think this whole position is about relationships and building relationships and building trust. And I think when people know where you're coming from and trust that, I'm in this for the kids, we're in this together, I'm not going to leave you alone, you can start to shift a culture. And When do I think that starts to happen? I don't know. Why don't you ask my staff if it's happening yet or not?
That's a safe answer.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to come into a place where, so many of the people were hired by someone else and we're used to someone else, and it does take some time, I think, for people. Obviously, nobody would be surprised at that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That it takes a while for that people to adjust to a different style of leadership. But as long as there's a competence level there, and as long as people see some kind of leadership ability there, I think they eventually come around and adjust themselves, just like we adjust too. When you switch from one building to another, you have to adjust your style because it's different kids and different teachers and a different community that you're working
with. And even all the cool things I did in Wilson might not be a fit for here at West Bradford. So, taking a temperature of the culture and where do they want to go. But I have to say, this whole culture here, the families, the teachers, the support staff, everyone has been really supportive and very welcoming, and at least to my face, and so I'll take it. But really,
you're in trouble if it's not even to your face.
Well, I know.
You know what I mean? You can't control what's behind your back, but if it's not even to your face, then you know it's a problem.
I just stay off Facebook. That's all. But everyone's been really supportive, and it's been a. They want to move, they want to shake, they want to do what's best for their kids. So yeah, it's been good.
John mentioned one of the interests we have is principal retention. It's something that we're actually looking at doing a study on. We've actually started a study. That was the thrust of my dissertation. So let me ask you, you've been in the role now successfully for a number of years. The research is showing for elementary principals, the lifespan is about 6 years. For middle level principals, it's about 4.5 to 5 years. For high school principals, 3.5 to 4 years. You've surpassed those numbers. It also, the research shows that it takes about 7 years for a principal to make the most impact across student achievement, period. Okay. So hearing that and knowing that 7 years is longer than what the average is, you've found a way to beat the averages right now. So you've achieved longevity. Even though you've made a brave switch, you've still been in the role. So what are the things that keep you in the job? How do you keep your batteries recharged? How do you stay motivated to do this?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't know. What'd your research say?
While you're thinking of the answer, Dina, I have to say in our pre-meeting, I did say something along the lines of, we don't quote research, and we talk off the cuff. We don't really get into any of the research.
You said that.
Dr. Nick goes right in there.
Right in his. Well, let me talk about my dissertation.
There you go. Wow, we're throwing that around. I'm the only one without a dissertation.
Yeah, Wert et al.
Step out.
Yeah. Oh gosh, but that is a good question in terms of the motivators that what keeps you fresh in your position. I like the challenge of what I do. I like to see, if you ask a teacher, they'll say, oh, it's the aha of the kid. I think of the principalship as kind of like, you've got the teachers in charge of their classroom and the environment and helping kids learn and grow. And I feel like if there's a concentric circle around that, I'm kind of like the teacher of the teachers. They're sort of like my classroom and creating a culture in the building and to keep them learning and growing. And I think when teachers come up to me and say, oh my gosh, that was a really good faculty meeting, or I really learned a lot from that professional development session, or, oh, I'm really glad you brought that up. That feedback was really helped me. That's motivating to me, just like it would be for a teacher, for a kid to come up and say that. And that's like an ultimate compliment to me when a teacher says, oh my gosh, you've really stretched me and made me think about that in a way that, I've never thought about that before. So I would think that's one of the motivators. Parents saying that they, I always say 90% of the job is kids wanting to come to school. And, hearing feedback from parents about, oh my gosh, we love the feel of the building, and we feel that our kids are safe when they're there. We trust, it's a great building to send my kids. And that's a reward, a rewarding compliment as well, that I think are some of the things that, oh my gosh, I must be on the right track, or I must be doing the right things. Personally, I also think the professionals with whom I work, our admin team, and I don't know if I can talk about that on here because it's not, but I've been fortunate to work with amazing people who challenge me, who support me, answer my stinking questions, make you realize like, oh my gosh, you're going through the same thing, and finding the humor in the day and the humor in the job, and sometimes you really just can't take yourself too seriously. So that's been.
I think we can identify with that.
Well, I think you can. I would put you out there as. Yeah.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Light bright, turn on the magic of colored lights. Light bright, make a face to glow at night. Smiling friends, shining bright, make a sign to say goodnight.
Just pop in the colored pegs and follow the patterns. It's easy to make your favorite pictures and characters, or you can always create your own light pictures.
Light bright, turn on the magic of shining lights.
Light Bright from Milton Bradley.
Welcome back to the Rockstar Principles Podcast. And once again, please join me as it is time for the Church of Whitaker. Whitakerans. Yes, as you know, in each podcast, we dedicate some time to the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Todd Whitaker, as we work our way through the 18 things that great principals do differently. And we are all the way up to number 7. In the hope that by the time we get to number 18, we will actually get Dr. Whitaker on the Rockstar Principles Podcast.
Oh, who are we kidding? He's
going to be on!
It already happened, folks. Number 7, less than halfway.
So we got to 7, and we have confirmation that Todd Whitaker is going to give us a few moments at next week's PAESSP conference, Pennsylvania Association of Elementary Secondary School Principals. Dr. Whitaker is the keynote speaker, and through the magic of Twitter and direct messaging, Dr. Whitaker has agreed. And stalking has agreed. I think it's from the moment he gets out of his car and his ride from the airport. He has 5 minutes until he begins his keynote. So we're going to be sitting there waiting, stalking. I'm thinking of wearing like camouflage, maybe something. No, I guess that would be too intimidating.
Well, you can't wear camouflage because you'll be wearing
my new Rockstar Principles Podcast T-shirt.
Yes, we have now our prototype T-shirt has been released just in time for this episode, episode 10, and pretty soon when we launch the Rockstar Principles store, you'll be able to buy that T-shirt yourself.
I think we need a visual element to the program. If we're going to start talking about visual things, we may need to add some sort of photograph, maybe change our logo. I don't know, not the logo, but add a picture of the T-shirt to our podcast so folks can see it. I'm sure they're as excited as we are about it.
Oh yeah, we can. I think one of the things we definitely can do, and the smart techie people out there know this, that we edit the podcast using GarageBand, and we actually use AAC. And if you're able to watch or listen to our podcast that way, each of our different segments, it's actually marked by a different JPEG and graphic, and the title of each segment appears. However, you can't really see that unless you're using a program that allows you to see that. So iTunes doesn't use that particular type of awesomeness, like allowing you to fast forward.
Maybe when we get actual sponsors and the cash starts rolling in, we'll be knee deep in money. We'll be able to afford actual cameras that people can see. See us while we're recording our podcast. But we digress significantly because, as we said, we are up to number 7. And number 7 in 18 things that great principals do differently. Oh boy, this is a doozy. This is one near and dear to both of our hearts, Dr. Nick. And that is take every opportunity to hire and retain the very best teachers. Oh my goodness. We could do just an entire podcast just on this particular one.
There's no question. We could probably do an entire podcast series just on this one alone.
True.
So to full disclosure, this is my favorite of the 18 things, and a portion of my dissertation I actually spoke to a piece of this. Obviously, we've talked a multitude of times about the longevity and threats to longevity for the principalship and how that was the key to my dissertation. Well, 7 years is the magic number for principals in making impact in their schools. And while you can never show causation with your studies and your research, my big speculation is that the reason for that is by 7 years, most likely you as principal have turned over enough of your staff and hired your own staff that you can start making a push towards momentum. So in addition to that hiring, The teachers who really hate you and don't buy into the vision, hopefully leaving, maybe within 7 years. That's my guess as to what kind of contributes to that. So my personal opinion, and this is advice for all the aspiring principals out there, since we've been keying in on that a lot, is the most important thing you do as principal, one of the most important legacies you leave behind as principal, is your hiring. It's a 30-year investment when you hire somebody.
And it's aspiring and even current principals, need to really practice your due diligence in this process, if I could say that without stumbling through it. You cannot spend enough time looking into folks, trying to find out more about them, doing reference checks. Oh my goodness. I mean, just trying to find people that they've worked with and get opinions from people that they've worked with. But I enjoy the part that I feel as though I've done a pretty good job in my years as a principal is the actual face-to-face and actually getting to get a feel for who someone is and what they feel is important and what they feel are their priorities as an educator. I think there's a lot of tells. I think there's a lot of things that people are used to canned answers. I know there's some teaching candidates that come in and they're ready to talk about differentiated instruction and they're ready to talk about the standards and common core. And they're prepared for that stuff. But really, not trying to throw them for a loop, but trying to just get to know more about who they are as a person and what they see as a priority and what they see as important about the job of being a teacher. And when you ask questions like that, if you get canned answers, that concerns me. I prefer somebody that can really just look you eye to eye and just really speak from the heart and tell you how strongly they feel about the job of an educator and what kind of impact they can have on the world. That carries a lot more weight with me, quite frankly, than somebody that can speak to Common Core or that somebody that can speak to DI or any other topic. Because to me, all of those other topics you can teach someone. If someone comes in, if a candidate comes in and they're not as educated on specific things like Common Core, I can give that person professional development and show them how to learn that stuff and teach them more about that stuff. Heck, I'm even still learning about that. But you can't teach emotion. You can't teach heart. You can't teach passion. You can't put that into somebody. It's got to be there from the get-go. And if it's not, if you're getting, blank stares, canned answers, somebody that's robotic with their responses, I check out. I'll check out 5-10 minutes into an interview, I got to admit, because I just don't see that person as being real.
Well, let's call that the IQ. So their ability to come in and talk the talk, to talk education, to talk the buzzwords. Let's call that their IQ. And like you said, you can increase someone's IQ. There's a lot of research out there that says you can increase their EQ too, that emotional intelligence. So, we can build on that as well. But like you just said, you can't bring that to the table. Someone's ability to deal and work with kids on a day-to-day basis, to interact and be collaborative with their colleagues, to be humble, to not be willing to not be afraid to have to learn or say, what, this sucked and it's got to get better. Those are the types of things that you look for those tells in the interview. So you've got the EQ, you've got the social IQ, and you've got the IQ. So it's a combination of all three of those things to a large degree, and it's a big responsibility for you to sit across that table and figure out, does this person have what you're looking for? To touch real quick, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about with this particular topic, especially the phases of the interview. Some options people have of ways they can find this stuff out.
Yeah.
But before that, one of the things that turns me off, you were saying the point where you check out. It's possible that I can get through an entire interview with someone and not check out till the final question. And the final question always is, do you have any questions for us?
I know where you're going.
And it must be that the colleges and universities are telling the kids out of school to do this.
Yeah.
But here's the bottom line. If it's a first interview, you shouldn't have any questions. Thanks for having me here, and let's go. When I start getting those canned, ridiculous questions that are somehow supposed to impress me, it turns me off.
Yeah.
What is your vision and the district's vision for education into the 21st century?
What are you most proud of as a principal? What is your greatest accomplishment? I see, absolutely, I see that as well. And I don't understand what they're hoping to gain out of that. Like they're trying to Jedi mind trick me. Come on.
Right.
I'm the Jedi.
That's
right.
right.
You can't come in and Jedi mind trick me.
You're the
in that
Padawan
interview.
learner.
Yeah. You're the one that's supposed to be getting information from me. I think, and this is a whole nother rant, and no insult to our higher ed friends, but I just see a tremendous disservice. Maybe it's just regional, maybe it's local, I don't know. But I just see interview skills for kids just coming out of, this is how old I am, I'm talking about kids coming out of college, yes. They just don't have it. They don't have the interview skills. They come in and they've got their great binder, their wonderful portfolio with all of their pictures, and that's all nice, that's all fine. But there's got to be more to you than that. You're more than just a portfolio. You're more than just a binder of a collection of photographs and sample lessons, and you're more than that. You've got to be, face to face, a real person.
Well, let me put this out there right now. And any candidate for whether it's a principal's job or a teaching job, and any university people listening. And this is someone who I've hired 26 staff members in the past 3 years. I don't care about your portfolio or binder. I'm not going to look at it. I don't want to see it. In an interview, I want to see you. I want to talk to you. I don't want to be looking at pages of your lesson plans, of the units you've developed, and all the wonderful letters from your students.
Certainly not in a first-round interview.
No, absolutely.
Certainly not in a first-round interview. Because we're seeing, you have to understand, we have an opening. We've got, hundreds of people applying, that we narrow it down. This is the fact of the matter. For anybody I'm not trying to dissuade people. I'm trying to give you tips. We're trying to give you advice. I'm not trying to dissuade you from getting an education. But we're weeding down hundreds of applicants down to like 20 first-round interviews, each one maybe 15 to 20 minutes long. That's, you're trying out. It's like a chorus line. You're trying out. You gotta have bang. You gotta impress us. You gotta be able to speak from your mind, from your heart, about why you want to be a teacher. It can't be all this prepared stuff that, is real nice, and the colleges do a nice job of showing you how to do. But in the first round, we're just not going to have time for that.
And the first round, let's even be more clear. First round is really a second round, because we've already screened you in.
Right.
Now, it's very true. You might get to the table because of who you know. If you get to that point, then you better take advantage of that one opportunity you get in front of those people at the table.
Right.
Because I'll give an example. We had a math opening this summer. In our computer system, which houses all the applications people apply for, just for the position alone, this is the number of applicants who clicked the button that specifically said, I want to apply for this position at DMS on July 2013. 650 people within a system that has 4,000 applications already sitting in it. That's a first round as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So when you get to that table, be ready. Okay, so I think we've made our point there.
Yeah, we made our point to the aspiring teachers, but back to principals who are doing this job. You really need to dedicate time. You cannot take it lightly. I know it just seems like common sense, and yet I see people in the field that I just don't know how somebody hired them. I don't know what made somebody think that this person was someone who was good for kids or good for working with children. There's just it boggles my mind to see. I know folks that are in our profession, and the reason I get so passionate and so frustrated about it is because it hurts all of us. It hurts all of us in public ed when there's one person in one school, in one community, any state in the country that is messing up. That person is giving all of us a bad name. I truly believe that. Across the board, they're hurting all of us. So it's so important for leaders, for principals, to get the best person. I know you go through, as Nick's saying, you go through tens of hundreds or whatever people, and you get through that process. If you're not excited about adding this person to your staff, start over. Start over.
It was a tip I took from Jon Whitaker, who was my mentor. And we had an opening for special ed, which is important, obviously, several years back. And it was the day before school started. And I was doing the screens for the first round, or might have been the third round at that point. And Jon said, I don't care how long it takes to find this teacher. I don't want someone in that seat just for the first day of school. If it takes us till February that's fine, but we're going to get the right person. We'll make everything else work, but we're going to hold on as long as we have to. Another tip for the aspiring principals or even principals who are in there, and this builds directly on what John was saying about, you look at some people and teachers and say, man, who thought this was the right person to bring in to any school? And my advice there would be giant corporations, Fortune 500 corporations, when a new CEO comes in, quote unquote principal, they wipe out their top level, they bring in their own people.
Sure.
You can't do that as a principal.
Yeah, right.
You inherit everything that's there. So for the generations after you, leave good people. And when you get that opportunity to hire, you better make it count, because once that person's
That's
in...
your legacy.
That's your legacy.
That person is now attached to you for, as you were saying, 30-plus years. Anybody who has a problem with that person, they are going to be saying, who hired this person? Whose bright idea was it to bring them on board?
The other thing I really wanted to just kind of add in when we talk about second and third rounds, there's tons of strategies that people use. The one that I've really found most effective and the one that I've been happiest with, and this is in positions where core instruction is very important, and even in the encore or elective level, I think it's important too, is doing a real teaching interview. Having these teachers come in and teach a lesson. So one of the things we do now is we develop a lesson plan. We paint who the learners are in terms of ESL, special ed, different learning styles and whatnot. We make the candidates come in. And I can honestly say that since we started doing this, there have been second rounds, final rounds, where we've done a teaching interview, where my mind's been made up already. After a first round, someone has blown me away, and I'm like, this is the person. And then they come into that teaching interview, and they couldn't teach their way out of a paper bag. And someone else, who maybe didn't interview as well at that table, comes in and just blows it out of the ballpark because they can teach.
Yeah, I have to say, you've converted me on that. That's not something that I had done in the past until you turned me onto it, and I've done it for a few of the positions that I've hired recently as well. Again, especially as you're talking about, core curriculum classes, and especially positions where there's more competition. We have a language arts opening. There's going to be a lot of competition for an English teaching spot. If I have a tech ed opening or a secondary math, maybe algebra 2, it's going to be a little bit thinner pool of candidates for that. But something wide open like that, when you really want to make sure that you take your time and get the right person, that's one way to do it, man. Just to go through that process. It's arduous. It's you're blocking out half of your day probably to sit through 4 of the same lesson being taught 4 or 5 different. That's understandable, but. And one thing I've gotten from it too is ideas. When I've done it, even people that I haven't hired, I've gotten teaching ideas. I've seen cool, new, interesting things from people like that.
You can steal.
So you can, that's the side benefit of it, is taking your own notes and getting ideas on teaching strategies when people do that. So that's
in our Twitter world, that teach like a pirate philosophy.
There you go.
That one particular chat that's out there.
Yes.
I can't reference it right now, but just check it out on Twitter. There's a great book. Author's escaping me. John's going to look it up. Hopefully we can find it. But it basically, steal the best stuff from the best people. That's a great point. Hey, one more thing to talk about with that, and this is a little bit more controversial slightly, but I think it applies. And this goes to current principals and, once again, those aspiring principals. Depending on which level you're at and what district strategy and the way they run the district vision that you're in.
Dave Burgess, by the way.
Dave Burgess.
Pirate.
Awesome.
Sorry, Dave Burgess, Burgess.
Nice. Look him up.
Out.
He's on Twitter, and he runs a great
There's
chat.
There's actually a chat. Yeah, Teach Like a Pirate chat. I'll see if I can find that while you're talking. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's fine. So anyway, the point I'm making is that, and I'm going to use us as an example. So John and I are at the middle level. In the very beginning, in our roles here in this district, the dumping process existed. So when positions had to be cut at the high school level, the high school principals were allowed to pick the teachers they didn't want and basically dump them down to the middle level. John and I got together right after this happened the first time, and we said, this is a hill worth dying on. This is important enough that we have to make our voices known. And we basically said, we're willing to go right to the superintendent and have the conversation appropriately and professionally that says, hey, we don't want this to go on. There has to be a better way, a fair way to decide how teachers are going to be moved when shifts have to occur. And you can't have the dumping, because if you weaken the middle level, Same goes from the middle level dumping down to the elementary level or any other process that could exist by. You're only going to weaken the foundation of what you're trying to build on.
Well, it's that whole, dance of the lemons
Yep,
thing
there it is.
from Waiting for Superman. It's just you're hurting your entire organization if you're going to allow that continue to take place. And you as a leader shouldn't be doing it either. You as a leader shouldn't be, dumping somebody on someone else or doing the dance of the lemons and making it somebody else's problem, especially if it's someone that you hired originally and you're responsible for.
Absolutely.
You need to take responsibility, and I have, and I know you have, where we're not perfect with this. I've made mistakes on hires that I've made, but I've rectified those mistakes when I've made them one way or another. I've rectified those mistakes and have had to have conversations with people about, are they right for this position? Do they need to continue? And there's a misnomer out there. There's a misunderstanding out there that that you can't get rid of teachers.
Absolutely.
And that's baloney. I don't buy that at all. People talk about that and they throw that around like, oh, tenure. Once they have tenure, they're there. You know what? I will never say that. You'll never hear that come out of my mouth. Nope. Because if somebody's bad for kids, if someone's genuinely hurting children, you can't look yourself in the mirror and know that that's taking place, and you just stand by and shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, they've got tenure. I can't do anything about it. There's ways to get rid of people. There's multiple ways, too. There's the official evaluative way of getting rid of people, and then there's other ways through the profession with trying to coach them and show them and get them to understand on their own. I've had people who have resigned from working with me because they came to an understanding themselves that it wasn't right for them, that this wasn't the right place for them to be, it wasn't the right fit. So there's more than one way to skin that cat, and you have to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
And I think in Todd's point, to number 7, because he not just says hire, it's also retain, which is
the
point we're talking
We haven't
about
even
here.
gotten to the retaining part.
But you just spoke to it, and I think that's an excellent summary. Anyone just entering the profession, it is not true. Having tenure doesn't mean you're protected. What that means is you get due process rights.
Yep.
And if you've got a good association and good reps, they're going to work with you, with the people that you need to work with and or counsel out if that's necessary. And it's funny, you talk about, reputations and the way people perceive you and things like that. Are you soft? Are you hard as a principal? It has nothing to do with that. Yeah. It has to do with what's best for kids. If there's a teacher in front of a class of kids, it's not what's right for them, then it's your responsibility to take care of that. And we've in our building alone, we've been fortunate. Not a lot of people get a chance to hire maybe quite as many, the number of hires we've been able to do. But in addition to the 26 over the past 3 years that we've gotten to hire, we've also counseled out and or use the term gotten rid of 4 different teachers who weren't good for kids. So that's part of the process that is important.
And you mentioned it, and my last comment on that will be, if you've got a great association, I've worked with local association members, leadership, that have done just that they have seen the writing on the wall, that they have genuinely cared about what's best for children, and have, I don't want to say helped us, but they're helping the professional, they're helping the person understand that they're hurting kids. So I've worked with that. I think unions get a bad rap too.
You're right.
Because I think that I have worked with unions. I have worked with association leadership and have gotten them to see, again, it's a heck of a lot of work, but I've gotten them to see that this person is hurting children in terms of education. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Union leadership has sat down with people and they put all the cards on the table and they say, okay, here's the process that's going to be if you want to fight this. Here's the process if you just want to resign and walk away. Again, just showing they're doing their membership a service and they're doing the children a service by really counseling and coaching people through that process. So unions get a bad rap, and it's because there's union leadership out there that won't do that refuses to do that. I've worked with union leadership that did that as well, and just say, no, the teacher's right, you're wrong. And they'll make us jump through all the hoops and make the job even more difficult. So, there's union leadership on both sides of that as well. But there's plenty of them. I feel the more often than not, I've worked with union leadership that was able to, see both sides of the coin and get people to understand that if you're hurting kids, you really shouldn't be in the profession.
So as we wrap up this segment here, anyone who is as passionate about this as we are, and we're gonna start asking this more often now. Email us if you want at rockstarprinciples@gmail.com. Twitter message us. Twitter connect us. Facebook page message us.
I think it's time we start our own Twitter chat, by the way,
time.
Dr. Nick. I think that's on the horizon soon after our interview with Dr. Whitaker next week. I'm just trying to contain my excitement for next week. It's a week from today.
John's walking around with a stack of Whitaker books. He's so excited.
Giddy like a schoolgirl.
It is pretty exciting.
Yeah. So I think it'll be time for us to start something like that. So stay tuned for that. We'll have our own weekly Twitter chats that maybe those of you that are following us can participate in as well. But with that, we will close this prolonged segment, this prolonged chapter.
Passionate segment.
In the Church of Whitaker. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be right back with more of the Rockstar.
Thanks for helping RSP top the charts in the Edu podcast world. Keep it real with Twisted Steel and School Appeal.